Daar sê, hier is ons weer by nog 'n uitsending van Uit Die Koekblik nou. Ons gaan vandag weer 'n bietjie Engels praat vandag, maar amazing. En as julle nou so hier kyk, julle sien ons is nou offisieel, ons het koekies op die koekblik. Hier is 'n koekblik, hier is al hierdie goeders, maar ons gaan nie oor hierdie hoor nie, ons het 'n baie spesiale gas en sy naam is Wayne Els. Welkom Wayne Els.
Thanks, Cooks.
As I. Thank you for joining us on the koekblik.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
Good
lovely.
having you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Wayne, we come many years together, and I want to start it with that because we started playing together as lighties at Pirates, young guys. But what a man! It was a big experience for me. I always tell people the story when I arrived at Pirates. I was this Afrikaanse seentjie that came into this English crowd, and I met amazing guys like you. So, yeah, what a journey. But let's start. Let's introduce people to Wayne Els.
Yeah.
Born where? School?
So yeah, I born in Joburg, born and raised in Joburg. I went to Craighall Primary School, went to Hyde Park High School, not a major rugby school. And then the rugby journey started about 2 years out of school where I had some friends from Sandown. I went to Hyde Park, and then after Hyde Park was Pirates. And I started Pirates, like you, I was a lighty, but I started because I had mates in Sandown High School who were going there. They said, you must just come down. So I think I started when I was about 19 or 20. And I think it was around about the same time that you started.
Yes.
I think it was the
I
same
arrived
time.
at 95, or was it?
Oh no, you were there before me, because I didn't arrive in 95. I think it was 96.
96.
Yeah, 96 or 97. Yeah, and then the rugby journey started there, so I certainly cut my teeth at Pirates. And I think, that's our common denominator, is the Pirates journey. And I think for a lot of other people, and people who know us in terms of rugby circles through the Pirates setup. And I think that Pirates was instrumental in everything that I went on to do in my rugby career. And I met incredible people there. Pirates shaped me. I think it shaped the person I am, and certainly the influence of certain people, I'm sure we did it, of certain people in the club at the different periods of time where I'd pop my head in and pop my head out from opening of the season or wherever I was. And so there were trips overseas to various places, but it all had to do with rugby. And here we are. So there's probably a lot to unpack in between.
We'll unpack it
now, but we're going back. And just before we started this, people, you and I were discussing Liverpool. So that's another big passion.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Liverpool. We
Must
must say you'll never walk alone.
Yeah.
Wayne, but it's important to know, and today rugby has evolved, and we got now to a stage where the English schools has developed from a much earlier time, where in the years that we played, the English schools started late with the rugby. They didn't start like us. As soon as you were ready to stand up, they will give you a ball and say, like you can ball speel. You guys started late with the rugby.
Yeah, so I always consider myself a late bloomer. And yeah, I mean, rugby was not even part of my vocab because of my English background. So I went to English schools. So I was heavily involved in other sports. I was heavily involved in swimming, and soccer was my first love for a long time.
And athletics?
Yeah, and athletics.
Yeah.
And I accomplished a few things there. So I was always very athletic. I was very fortunate with great genetics. And then fast forward, so there were various sporting accomplishments through school. But then, obviously, the allure of rugby, I was very much drawn to rugby. So in my earlier years, I came from a very dysfunctional family. And I think that I was a very angry person. And I think that I started to accomplish things quicker in rugby than I did in other sports. I was never really a gifted baller. I was an athlete, but I had to work hard than the other guys who might have been naturally more talented at rugby. So that's where we started, and later, so like I said, I think I used rugby differently. I think I saw rugby differently than the majority, maybe you and maybe other people who viewed rugby completely different as maybe as a way of having fun, and it wasn't that for me.
Now for you it was a survival mode actually, it was a matter of finding solid ground, if I can call it that.
Yeah, so it was an outlet for me, because I was an angry human being, I was angry, and I used rugby as a way to get rid of some of that
Express
anger. But unfortunately, in hindsight, I wish that if we could go back, I would tell my earlier self to just enjoy it a bit more. I was way too serious, and those people who know me know that I come across as serious. So that's what it was for me. I think initially it was an outlet for me and an escapism for me from home life into a space where nobody really knew me, nobody knows my background, and I could rub shoulders with men who I never really had strong male figures in my life, and now I was rubbing shoulders with guys that are forever etched in my memory, and it taught me a lot in hindsight.
But how amazing is it if you think of rugby with that? It gives you that edge where you are in a change room with a guy that's solid, or a guy that's a reputed guy, or a guy that's got some authority in a club, and it just allows you to be. And that's why maybe it helped you in part of your release, or would you say it is different?
No, it definitely did. And the other thing, the great thing about rugby, and both of us are linked to a club that has got an incredible social aspect, which is Pirates Rugby. And I mean, when I came into Pirates Rugby, you had an interview with Peter Rogers, and we spoke briefly about him. But when I just arrived, Peter Rogers was like the guy who, like you said, was breaking through to the Vodacom Cup, and then all of a sudden he was gone. And then I think like a few months later, if not weeks, he was called up for Wales, and then for a few more months he ends up beating the Box. So those sort of things were inspirational to me. And when I arrived at Pirates, there were real strong characters, real strong men. And the great thing about rugby is you don't know anybody's backstory. But for me, walking in there, like those people were important to me. They probably didn't know it. But when I think about it, I was essentially captained from the beginning by Glenn Godwinson, who's a legend at Pirates. And Glenn also had a big, all these guys, So I wanted to play eighth man, but Bob Dippenaar, who's the old president and became the president of Gauteng Rugby, he would always say to me, no, you must play lock. So of course I never thought I was tall enough for lock, and I thought, if I've got any dreams and aspirations, I'm going to fail, forget it. And plus, your ego says, well, you're saying, no, I'm not good enough. But who I was standing next to was the likes of, I played next to Cole Swabbart, Peter Skedder, and the locks that mentored me at the time was Lucas Swart and Gordon Peacock. And then when I thought my break was going to come, down comes Nigel Pickford from Witzel. All of these guys were proper hard men. Solid hard men. And I learned a lot from them, And the front row was John Sergio, Warren Beckross, and Ken Kowalski, the Lebanese connection at the front. And those positions changed from time to time. Johan Bossel then came. Delare du Preez came in from the box. And when those guys come in, you get inspired, So for me, there were a lot of heroes at Pirates, and that was another big draw card where I thought, okay, well, this is what being a man is like, and this is what a normal conversation is with a guy who's got a strong character, who's got a physical presence, and has got incredible leadership qualities. All of those folks. And there's so many more. The Ryan Mates of the world.
Both Peacock brothers,
Yeah, both. He was an incredible baller. Both those guys had incredible hands. They were big guys, tall guys. Yeah, and we'll get to it. Any of those guys could have walked into any provincial team. But that's another thing.
You see, at the end of the day, I take with the Peacock brothers, and I was always supporting one in the front and one at four. But they would sit down and they'll figure out the complete lineouts, how they want to do it. And you didn't have to do anything, but you learned. It was just like you absorb everything that they say, and they would literally move this, and you don't have to say, oh, but are we going to do a 4-ball? No. And they did, and it's amazing. I think that people pull you to better heights in your rugby. You need the guys like that.
There was a lot of emphasis on physicality in our time. It was real, how big are you, how tall are you, it's about the stats, how intimidating you are, but I think in my time at Pirates, where I was very fortunate, I was fortunate enough to be part of a group of guys who accomplished incredible things. The year 2000 2001 was an incredibly successful year, where we won the National Cup chase, and I rubbed shoulders with incredible people. And Dickie Meir just so happened to come in, and so there was more mentorship. And Dick also played a big part. He probably won't remember now, but he hooked me up at various provinces. So he was also, there were so many instrumental people.
I think I'm going to make a list. I mean, I even just thinking of my head is a guy like the coach Frana Pelser.
Yeah, okay, from
sure. I mean, it's just a rugby brain. I mean, it just literally, he could put things out, and I think it was an important part of all of our rugby at that stage, and a lot of the guys went on to play better rugby from there, because it was just, you worked with such a great group of people.
Yeah, and the coaching, I mean, everybody had different strengths, but I remember a guy called Charlie Good. I don't know if you know.
Yes, I remember Charlie Good.
Charlie Good, like, he was also another great guy. He was instrumental because for me, in terms of a father figure, he probably doesn't even understand it, because doesn't know it, but he had such faith in my abilities. So he was the first sort of adult to say, you know what, you can do good things. And he just believed in me. And just the simple belief sort of changed my trajectory as well. As well as Bob Dippenor's influence and faith in me to maybe change position, would I never listen to
But you ended up then in 2001, that you played some sevens rugby. Out of that, you played some provincial sevens at the Lions.
Yeah. So what happened was, I mean, sevens was not part of my vocab, and it was still kind of like not even it was played around, so it had more of a cult status. Played with the sevens on the weekend to keep your fitness up. But then what happened was, after I just need to get my bearings right. In 1999, a very, very, very good friend of mine, also comes from a legend family, Rodney Johnson.
Oh yes.
He went over to the States, and he was playing for the Oklahoma men's club, and they said, look, we're looking for another 8. He phoned me, and fast forward, I was in Oklahoma, which, I mean, just incredible memories. But what happened from there is I was scouted by a team called Elvis at the Opry, who essentially they represent an Elvis Foundation, and they choose certain players, and I was very fortunate to be picked. And they set me up with a house and earned a bit of money from them. I wasn't supposed to say anything because I was supposed to be quiet. The other team
it's many years ago.
But what happened was they said sevens, and I thought, okay, fine. But in that team was another New Zealander called Lance Hoyer, who also played represented rugby for New Zealand when he was a youngster, and subsequently was a member of the bobsleigh team in the Winter Olympics for New Zealand. That happened also. So, I mean, and all of these guys are just absolute legends, and they're still very much involved in my life. They're still involved in my life. Anyway, they introduced me to sevens. I was very fortunate. We traveled around the country every weekend. We had special programs, and it was the first time in my life I was exposed to a professional outlook and way of training and eating, and that's where I cut my teeth in sevens. And as soon as I came back, a guy called John Westhuizen, who was a legend in Northerns, was an incredible wing and Springbok. He was actually now the coach of the Lions 7 side, which I didn't know even existed. And then Rodney was also involved in it, and another legend called Fadi Manza. He was also involved in it, and they said come down. And cut a long story short, I went there and I'd learned a little bit about sevens, so I could bring my experience. And so I played a bit of sevens, Lions sevens then, and that was in 2001. So my timelines might be mixed up. And then after that, I came back down to Pirates, and that's how strong Pirates were. I'd come from a provincial setup, into a team where I couldn't make any headway.
You had to fight your way back.
Yeah, and I remember sitting on they always had selections on, I think it was Mondays, and I used to sit on the stands, and your name used to be called up. And I used to be gutted, but the guys who were in front of me were incredible rugby players. And like I said, I learned a lot. So I came through the ranks at a very powerful time in Pirates rugby history. And it was all the better because I had to really play up if I wanted to even think about playing for the first team at that stage. And that boded well because that season I was scouted by an Italian club, and I played in Italy.
What club did you
So
scout
I played for a club called Piacenza. So the structures have kind of changed now, but we were in the then Serie A. I don't know what I'm not too familiar with what it's called now. I spent a year there, then I came back. I thought, I really want to make it at home. I came back, spent a little bit of time at Pirates, and then the Dion got hold of me again and asked me if I could come play. I played again then, and we here's a good story. We were selected as a team. I think there were about 12 of us, and there will be guys that I don't remember their names, but there were 12 of us, and Fardy Mums and Ronnie were part of that group, and we went for nationals down at Durban. I remember it was a rainy weekend, and we played terribly. Dion was there, and Peter Visser was our manager.
Oh wow! Yeah. Peter is now with the Lions.
Correct, and Peter and I also had a number of years with Sevens and at Pirates before that, with his dad, who was also a legend.
Sure. Yeah.
And there were two youngsters that were brought into the team. We thought, we haven't even seen these oaks. I said, no, these oaks are going to be stars. And of course, the societies of the club didn't need these oaks. And the two guys brought in was Jacques Ferry and Brian Dapper. Now, at that stage, we didn't know that. And I think Jacques Ferry was playing fullback for Monarchs.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And in that weekend, he was 18 years old. But that weekend, he was just, I knew he was destined for things. And then fast forward, I went back to Italy for 3 or 4 years, and I came back, and then I saw this monster on the screen playing Springbok Centre. He was the best in the world. So, all of those stories are fantastic, and it's a real privilege for me to know that I played with the caliber of players. There can be a lot of ego involved in rugby. I was just so privileged to play rugby.
What's amazing as I'm listening to you is Pirates always stayed your home base. And you would go play, come back, go play, come back, go play. And that, how amazing is that from Pirates is the fact that there was always space for you. There was, it was never a selected group. There was always come home.
Yeah, so that you're exactly right. And people who know me so Pirates is a great social club. But because of my home life, I'd practice and then I'd go home because I'd have to get home because of various reasons. So I would never enjoy the social aspect of the club. And the social aspect of the club is you can play with each other, but you get to know people when you sit down with them, have a beer with them or whatever. And I never got to enjoy that side of it. However, every time I came back, I always felt at home at Pirates. And I still do. Not that I go there, but whenever I do go there, I'm welcome. And they've had they were incredible. I mean, Clive Hartman there is now heading up the rugby side of things. And these are all real rugby people. And before that was Brad Garman, who sacrificed a lot for the club at the time. So it's great to be associated with that club. And yes, it's like one of those, it's your best old friend that you don't have to see every year, but when you don't, you feel welcome.
There's so much successful people out of that groups that you are talking about. Even Altman Alles, I mean, he played with us at Pirates, and now he's the main boss of the Lions. I mean, how amazing is it? I mean, and Peter Visser is the general manager at the Lions, and so I think the successes of what we are is also part of all the guys that took your hand and said, "Come, let's go."
Yeah.
So that's.
And we're all definitely part of a collective, and we take little things. We take what we want,
Yeah.
We take a lot of goodness out of people.
Yeah. When we played under 21 at Pirates, I don't think we had the most amazing side in the sense of results. We were always somewhere in the middle. It was always tough games against some of the Afrikaans clubs. And
I think the row was.
You always had the row and the Tex running it at the top, and you had the Vitzes that was. But we were always sitting in the middle. But even with that, and for me it was a very profound time, and we played together at that stage. We always was solid. There was never a complaint about how bad we were. The guys came down, we played games.
Yeah.
Brad Geimer, Gary Staples, I mean, all that guys, Ross Morgan, they all just came down, and for me it was an experience. You must remember coming from Monash, and in my whole Monash 5 years, I think we lost about 5 or 6 or 8 games in 5 years. So I didn't know about losing so much, and I arrive here and we are losing, but I still have guys that are still mates and getting together, having the social part which you didn't join us much with, but also there was always positivity around it, and that was for me a very defining time in my life, is to understand that the rugby is not just about the fact that we had to win.
Yes.
We struggled to a lot of the teams, but we were good. We played and everyone had fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of camaraderie. I mean, yes, I remember big first team games. We'd go to, it was called Torquino Bake. You going back, the Cobra Whiskies and the Black Horses and the Sailor as well. But we used to go and have a pizza before a big game at Torquino Baking Beans.
Okay.
But all of those memories, you know, and now that we're speaking, I think about all the legends that came down. I mean, you had Grant these days.
Yes.
I mean, you know,
Cobus Visa, James Small.
James Small, Gavin Johnson, Benny Nokia came down, Dylan Prayer came down. So all of these guys would come down, and there were no airs and graces. No. And you learnt a lot from it. You learnt a lot from those things. And yes, rugby is about so much more than that. And what I wanted to say was, there was a story between you and Peter Rogers where you told him about your first scrumming session. Correct. You know that I remember that because they asked you to scrum in a practice at the end of a practice, right? Correct. And we could never practice on the main field. It was only for the first. And I remember that they called you, and all of us went to the stands, and we used to go. We went and we watched that scrumming session because it was a big thing for us. You know, these oaks were. They were mentors for us, and it was a big thing. So I remember that. Cooks has got to go across there. So we went to the stand and we watched. So yeah, I mean, great memories, great things we can take from whatever journeys we've had.
I remember as I arrived at the club as well, there wasn't much Afrikaans Okies, but Peter Visser came over to me, and he became mates of mine, and he was still playing at that stage, playing fly off, and then
before he did his knee.
Then he injured himself. But and suddenly from him, I had a family. I had a rugby family because Paps was there, his mum was there, his sister came down, and suddenly I had this family, and he just gave me this pen in the ground. I had people that loved me, that looked after me, and I just want to bring it in as a story, is that it became a family. Is I would literally, after the game, and me and Peter will finish our games, and we'll go down to the stadium and we'll sit down, and dan sê Tannie, hey, cookies is vir jou ook 'n broodjie, you know, and it was like, wow, it's just so nice having people doing that, and then it just expanded, and it is so many, and I'm mates with so many Pirates guys. I mean, me and you are mates for many years now, and for me that was important, is to not just a camaraderie. Camaraderie is in a time when you are doing the battles, but afterwards that we are still involved in each other's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. You have stayed connected, and we've got a big Liverpool connection, so we celebrate those houses, more houses.
Have we said on the camera, we'll never walk alone?
We have.
We have to do it again, just to tell everyone, Liverpool has won the league. Just to make sure, please everyone watch, Liverpool has won the league. We have to do it.
We can do it again. So I think, you and I did have a discussion pre this, and I said, I think I want my story to be a little bit, because everybody's got their own story. Everybody brings their own story, their own background, a set of circumstances that people may or may not know. The guy playing next to you has got his own set of issues, and you must be cognizant of that. So I think what I've learned in hindsight is there's a lot more. Rugby is not only about that. No. It gives us an opportunity to rub shoulders with people we wouldn't usually in social circles. But everybody's got a story, and you never know what somebody else is going through. And rugby for 1 or 2 or 3 people, it might be the same thing it was for me, for them. In other words, an escapism, a way out, even if it's for 2 hours on a Tuesday, on a Thursday, whenever the boys go and they train. That could be for them a way out of escaping whatever circumstance they may be. And rugby taught me a lot. Rugby taught me a lot. It taught me certain disciplines, it taught me certain perspectives of people. So I think that was the original slot of the other benefits of rugby.
Because being caught up in your and I don't want to go too deep into personal things, but getting caught up in a system where your family is not at the right places. Finding a family, like I'm now using an example of the Fissers, it just gives you that sense of, and I didn't have that family problems, but it just gave you a sense of, okay, there is better out there. There is not just better in the sense of but I'm saying it gave you some stability.
Yeah, so everybody's searching for, I think, happiness. A certain sense of, and some people take it for granted because they don't know anything else. But just as you're speaking about that, I mean, Mark Watson was part of the Seven setup and a big part of Pirate setup, and he was an accomplished rugby player, but he was also a hard man and extremely successful. Have you ever shaken hands with Mark Watson?
No.
But I rubbed shoulders with the likes of him, and like just on the rugby field, you realise you come across certain situations where there's hardships, and these guys, they move on very quickly. They have the ability to move on very quickly, a setback very quickly, and it also leads to their success in business outside of rugby. And I think of the likes of the Vardy Moses and all, everybody that I mentioned previously, and there are many more that I haven't. Guys who have lots of Argentinian boys, and other New Zealanders and other South African boys that I played with there, Daryl Ligner and Ryan Netlam, and then the godfather to one of my youngest child, Kelly Rolleston. He married a lovely Italian lady who I consider my sister. So you because you spend so much time with these people, they become influential in your life, whether or not you spend social time with them, or whether it's picking up certain qualities that you think are going to be necessary for your life and that's going to make you a better person. That's essentially what rugby became to me. It took me out of a circle of dysfunction, and it forced me. Going to America forced me to break away from dysfunctions, and allowed me to understand what independence is and what certain happiness is and freedom is. So like I said, you rub shoulders with all these people of influence.
But Wayne, you're a lucky man to come out of a dysfunctional family, and that you actually chose positive. Because you could have gone just as wrong at the same time. You could have gone the same route as what happened at your house. You could have become an alcoholic. You could have been a druggie today. You could have chose the wrong side. You could have chosen B side instead of A side. But you did the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are people who are faced with those decisions every day, right? And we're talking in terms of rugby, and I certainly don't want to make this too deep and black. But the reality is that you get people who are carrying stuff, and I just think that the show is primarily about stories about rugby and connections you make in rugby. But I think that it's almost like a repetitive message of mine. Of you never know what people's stories are. You never know what their backgrounds are. So you will just always be cognizant. And rugby allows you to be part of a family that can look after you, that can teach you, that can protect you. And that's taken me. I'm very fortunate. I was very blessed. It took me all over the world. I wasn't the best rugby player. I was a good rugby player. I was blessed with good genetics in terms of my athleticism. But I learned more in rugby about life than I did about rugby. And you mentioned those losses. It's such a cliche, but you learn more in a loss than in the victory. But it's so true. I remember us, you and me, playing against Rao at home, and I think they were pucking us 79. Okay. And I remember we'd come back to the halfway line, but we'd kick off. And I just wanted to, didn't matter. I just wanted to prove myself constantly, prove myself. And you play against guys who want the same thing. So you're together in the victories and you're together in the losses, and that just makes you stronger. It just does.
It's amazing because that years there was still fighting and boxing and all of that. But I remember playing for Pirates, and Jason from Wyk, unfortunately, passed on a few years ago. Yeah. But Jason and Grant was there. Yeah, that two English boys was just as hard as they come. And I remember there was a move on we played Wits at a night game, and I was tackled. There was someone in the wall, and the game moved away and it came back. But there was the whole game. There was this argy-bargy. And next thing they moved back, and I don't know who it was, but the centre came running at me, and all I did was just, and I'll say it on camera today, because it was part of the club rugby. We played dirty, and I hit him hard and high, and he fell. And as he fell, I just hear, and there was this bunch of Wits boys smashing me, and that's the ugly part of it. And yeah, for that was part of rugby. But in the same sense, all the Pirates boys was just standing behind me, and I remember Jason and Grant just they were like, yeah,
they were wild boys. And but you're right. So I know what you're getting at. You're getting to the fact that you know they came with their stuff as well, but on the field they were there for you. Right? They were there for you.
100%.
But that's the great thing. So I watched the episode of with you and Sax. So Sax and I also go way back, and you know the story. Yeah. But I mean, that's the perfect example, right? Yeah. So.
But this is your chance now with Sax, because we were talking about him biting you.
Sax knows the truth. He knows he bit me. He admitted it. But there are reasons why he bit me. But the reality is that I mean, we don't see each other often. But Sax was. I mean, how's this for a circle, right? So there was niggle in the game, and Sax was on the floor, and my hand was there, and he took one of my fingers and he bit hard, and I went for a tetanus, and everything like that. But we're mates, right? So you can go through those things and you can come back together. But the full circle of so Sax was a part of my history. Fast forward, and Sax was part of the coaching staff at Grand Coma for my eldest son, Daniel. And he was one of the coaches involved. So, this guy was a part of my rugby history, and we've got a funny story to share. Yes. It'll always be with us, it'll be a common thing. Yes. Was part of my eldest son's life for a brief moment. Yes. And my son must have learned a few things from him. So that's the way I see my rugby journey. Rugby is incredible. You can rub shoulders with incredible people and pull yourself closer to people that can teach you.
But an amazing part of your rugby journey was you retired, and then you made a comeback at the age of 40, was it?
Yeah. So what happened was, I broke my ankle terribly in Italy, and we might go down that route, but let's just say I didn't get good treatment there. And I came back and I thought to myself, well, I'm not worried, because we've got great specialists here. Let me come back and get it done. I ended up going back to Italy to a specialist in Genoa to get it done, but it was never the same. And I came back here and I saw Dr. Patricius, who was the doctor for the Lions many years ago. And I went to another doctor, Dr. Saragas, who was an ankle specialist, still is a top. And he said, look, you're never going to run again, let alone play rugby. And I didn't want to accept it. So I went to Patricius the same day and he said, look, buddy, stand on your ankle, 3 seconds, you let me know, you're never going to run. You might run again, but forget about rugby. And for 6 years I didn't play. And I didn't run. And then, and I don't know whether I told you this story, but a recurring sort of thought of mine was the sound of studs hitting concrete coming out of a change room, wherever you are. And I missed that, and I had a lot of nostalgia around Pirates rugby, and I thought, let me try and come back to play again and retire on my terms, irrespective of how painful it is. And I was fortunate enough to make the Pirates first team for a few games. And I remember, because I don't know what it is like now, but we used to get changed in the squash courts, the first team.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And there's a little cement path that goes into the squash courts. And I remember walking, it was a night game, and I remember hearing them, and I thought, that's it. And that little thing I wanted to hear again, I've heard it now, and I
You could close it.
Yeah, but I mean, just in that, you know, you've got another Pirates who's become another Pirates legend, Sheldon Blanche, who's led Pirates for many years and had a lot of success. I remember the first game, I forget who we were playing, but it was Sheldon Blanche and another guy who moved on to Cape Town, I forget his name. But you know, I was at the stage of my life where just play rugby, don't, you know, if you want to hurt the IQ team and tackle the SC and just like the Jason van Wyk and Ron Trollope story, he used to, yes, all you heard was click, clack, bang, and there were oaks lying on the field. And I remember the whole game shouting, just don't, just press play. Anyway, but you got those, the legends will keep on coming, these big personalities, these guys that become Pirates men through and carry the flag through successes and lows. You've got generational, it's generational. And the great thing about Pirates is the youth system, which is second to none. And they're breeding, you know, future stars and people who will grow up with incredible mentors in the right environment for those youngsters. I mean, you go down there during the weekend, there's just hundreds, if not thousands of guys running around. And that's been mentored by a lot of old Pirates boys, the Pirates culture, which is go there and enjoy yourself.
A guy like Ryan Hendricks wrote to, I mean, he's so much involved in that, and it just makes so much sense for me, the fact that guys like that, I mean, he's such a solid boy, and he just gets down, and he's so passionate about the youngsters, and you need the Rotos, you need the Ryan Hendricks to come through and call that little old kid and say, hey boy,
because it's a sacrifice. It's a time sacrifice. These people have families. It's a time sacrifice. I mean, I think I played some Dallas rugby with him against the old French team. But these are rugby men. These are rugby men. The rugby men you see on TV are heroes to a lot of youngsters. But in terms of what keeps the system going in this country, are the real rugby men, like the Clives, like the Warren Backosses, like the Rotors, you know, all of these guys, there are many more.
And an important part of a guy like Ryan is you always need a ginger in the team.
Exactly, it's unfortunate, but it's true, yes.
I'm looking at this ball, and you've got a story on the Mardi Gras.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, we were getting ready for it, and I thought, yes, this is the old thing. So I've got an office that I keep all, you know, a few rugby memorabilia, and this was my trip down to the States. Now, anybody who knows Rodney Johnson knows.
Let me show him on the camera as well.
He's the life of the party, right? And he just happens to be an extreme. He's like my brother, right? And he works. He's got a very successful business in Utrecht, a transportation business that he built from the ground up. So kudos to him. And he was with me. And Mardi Gras is a big party in the streets. Okay, it's a little town called Baton Rouge. And it's an insane town, and if you want to go to an insane place and have a good time, Rodney Johnson's the guy. And we went to, so we had the Baton Rouge Mardi Gras 15s tournament there.
So it's a party.
Lots of party, lots of great memories. I've still got the beads, you know, and the beads are used to barter for certain things with the ladies, but we're not getting into it. But all of these things, you know, I've got incredible memories. Like I said, very, very, very fortunate. And I still, in fact, yesterday I've got a group chat with some of my rugby brothers. And you know, we're still keeping constant contact. Also real men that taught me a hell of a lot. I've been blessed.
Yeah. Wayne, your day-to-day, the Wayne Els man out there, you're in business today, in the financial world.
Yeah. So I'm a financial advisor, I'm a discovery agent, and I sell insurance, and I specialize in investment, estate planning. And that was something that I fell into just as the day that I was told that I won't go rugby again. I immediately went to a company Lives Life, and I spent 5 years there, and I moved to Discovery in 2012, and I've been there ever since. An incredible company to work for and represent. And through the years of kids, my youngest is at St. David's, he's 12, going on to about 25. Big boy, those boys go so fast. One morning they sound like a mouse, the next day they sound like a big man.
Yeah.
So I've been very blessed in my life, very blessed, and I'll come back to it. Yeah. If it wasn't for my rugby journey, then I definitely wouldn't be where I am. live a very privileged life. I worked hard for it, but I lead a very privileged life and a blessed life. And like you say, it's two forks in the road. You can decide which one you want. And I've been very blessed to work for a great company. And you know, you live, you then create a life outside of rugby and after rugby. Yeah, so that's me after.
Family, there's some noise here when we are not here. There's a family that's running around here.
Yeah, so my oldest Daniel, is also an incredible sportsman, incredible student. He's just finished his studies and he works for a little boutique investment house, asset house down in Cape Town. Also very successful boy, somebody I'm very proud of. And he's making his own way in his life, you know. And that for me is is that I kind of live for my kids, and some people say you shouldn't do that, but I do.
Yeah, but you have to do it.
Yeah, I do, and it's a situation of trying to give them everything that I didn't have and trying to be a father. I don't really try and be a father. I love being a father. I love it. It's nothing better. I never missed a practice. And then not one practice, not one match, and not because I thought it was a duty, it's because I just love it. I love being involved in the life, I love being a dad. So he's there, he's doing well, and he made the decision he said, I want to stay in Cape Town. And we said, well, if you want to do that, then you've got to make it on your own, and he's doing it. You know, so kudos to him. So yeah, I miss him, but you know, I stay in contact. But
and the missus?
So the missus is in Dubai. And the missus does what's called food styling, and everybody says, what's that? And the best way for me to describe it is when you see a burger in an advert and it looks perfect, and you get one and it looks nothing, that's her fault. That's pretty much that's what she does. Okay. She makes food look pretty, and she's extraordinarily good at it. And it takes her around the world, and she works very hard.
Okay. And how long are you guys married now?
We've been married since...
No, this is pressure on this man. He's going, I've had crip notes now, he's so.
Yeah, so we've got a great, you know, her and I have also got a great history. You know, we've been married since 2009, but we've known each other, we were high school sweethearts.
Sure.
In the chick for 3 months. That's all. And, you know, we had our own journey, and then we came together 1 year when I was in the off season from Italy. And then her and Daniel eventually came over with me for a year to Italy. So they've been part of my journey from the very start. And then the Lord Lamaki, Lee, he's like a mini me. Yeah. Soft, gentle soul.
Die pensioentrekkertjie. The pensioenpoedertjie, ja.
Yes. Yeah. It's going to keep me working for a long time. But now this is my retirement plan. So I love my family. I'm very, very blessed. My wife is beautiful. She's a career woman. She's an extremely strong woman. And I was just naturally drawn to her because of what I needed in my life. And she's the bedrock of our entire family.
Sure.
Very blessed. Very blessed.
Wayne, at the end of my koekblik talks, I think everyone knows it by now, I've got the koekblik moments of the koekblik oomblik of the cookie jar. And I'm starting it by grabbing this ball because you'll see it says under 15-18, 1999 to Wayne, thanks for the season. From your under 15-18, that's in 1999. And for me, the koekblik moment is, and everyone signed it as well, as the guys talking about this, and 99 is just a few years for you out of school. From a guy coming from a very tough background to come and do this is for me koekblik moment itself, because for me it's I'm also coaching and I'm also with kids. And this is hope. All the signatures are hope. You gave each one hope because each one says thank you for what you did for them. Doing it from where you come is even better than from where I'm coaching guys. And for me, that's a koekblik moment because it tells me so much about who you are as a person and how solid you went. Even with everything around you, just said, "Quah, let's go," and you hit it hard. And you changed lives, and most probably you don't have even contact with one of those boys today.
No, unfortunately I don't.
But you gave hope. And for me, I think my koekblik moment is hope. That's the word that I pull out of this, is The fact that you can, from nothing, you still get hope. From not being nothing, you found a family. From not nothing, you went out and you're a successful man today in business. You're privileged to your children. But more so, I always say to people, like you say, oh, we want to talk about our kids. Brag about your kids. That's the best thing you can do. It's the best thing you can do because it builds character. It builds, with my kids as well, I love bragging about them because what they're doing is amazing. And you're doing it, Wayne. And that's my Koekblik moment. You are Mr. Hope. You're a guy that comes out of very bad and you just hit it very, very hard. So I'm privileged to know you as a friend for close to 30 years.
Mutual.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for being on a Koekblik as well with me.
Pleasure. And can I just close with
100%, you can go for it.
Everybody that I've come into contact with, everybody, and they know who they are. They know who they are. There's a very special guy swimming in Cape Town at the moment, and when he sees this, I'm not going to mention his name. He's been very influential in my life. And everybody, like everybody, if I haven't mentioned you and you just so happen to look this out speaking about his experience, I just want to say thank you to everybody, including you, Cook, for giving me the platform to talk and reminisce. It's always lekker, and you know what? All the people I've rubbed shoulders with, whenever I see them again, it's like we've never left, and you make lifelong friends. And I just want to say that I'm so appreciative to every single one of them.
Stunning. Thank you for being on the Koekblik.
Thank you.
And I'm going to end the show.
That was full, by the way.
This was full. By saying out of the Koekblik, but now we'll go for the glass cookie jar at the Koekblik.